Nepal goes. This comes even as we saw former Chief Justice Sushila Karki take over as the interim leader. A cabinet takes shape under her, but now we're given to understand that there is some tension between these Gen Z protesters and the interim leader, Sushila Karki, over several key appointments. The Gen Z faction that is led by Sudan Gurung staged a midnight protest outside the interim Prime Minister's residence is what we're given to understand. In fact, they're already demanding her resignation over what they call an arbitrary cabinet formation. So there seems to be some power tussle that's coming to the fore. India, of course, is keeping a close watch as to what's transpiring in our neighborhood. Intelligence sources, in fact, have revealed to CNN News 18 that this escalating unrest, which is led by youth, by students, and these open threats that are coming to the fore, increases chances of instability in Nepal, which could be seen as a spillover effect into India as well. Anand Narasimhan now joins us, getting us more perspective on this. Yes, Anand.
Well, good evening, Poonam, and to our viewers. There has been some tension, and especially with around Sudan Gurung, the doctor who was at the center of this entire protest, and he was hailed as a new leader and someone who could perhaps have the ability to take Nepal forward. But somewhere, and he was one of the people who also espoused a lot of confidence in Justice Karki along with Balin Shah. But now what's happening is there have been pictures coming through of Sudan Gurung also facing ire during a press conference and some argument within his own team and groups, just showing that there are different tugs and pulls even within the Gen Z groups. Now, in this case, the latest one, which is a standoff with Justice Karki or Sushila Karki, the interim Prime Minister, is the appointment of Om Prakash Aryal as the Home Minister. Now, Om Prakash Aryal was a mere facilitator in this entire Gen Z movement, and some people are worried about why this person who has come out of nowhere and playing the role of a facilitator is now been elevated to the interim Home Minister grouping, and those who've been appointed in this interim cabinet seem to be some arbitrary appointments. That's what Sudan Gurung and his group's claims are. But Gen Z itself now is fractioned over multiple groupings. It is very, very similar to India against corruption. And what happened at that time when there was a collective movement that wanted to fight against corruption, but once they won the fight or what happens next? Now there was differences of opinion, and soon a lot of other groups moved away and they splintered. Eventually there was one entity left that turned political under Arvind Kejriwal, and then thereafter also there were many who left Kejriwal, and what happened thereafter is something that we know. But these are similar instances which happened even in Sri Lanka. It happened in Dhaka, in Bangladesh. But in Nepal, what's happening is that there was no political intent and there was no religious undertones to this entire movement. It was purely that they wanted a new order or a new grouping of polity, and they wanted all the old septuagenarian politicians who from the 70s had tried to shift the narrative and fought against the monarchy and brought in communism, secularism, etc. Now Nepal wants a new outlook altogether, which moves beyond communism. That seems to be the underlying theme, and that was the fight against corruption, misgovernance, and all the malpractices, and perhaps the political elite abusing law and order and law with impunity. But that now seems to be shifting to a power tussle, and which Indian agencies are very concerned about, because if anybody and everybody will be now thrown or appointed on the whims and fancies of a group of people who claim that they will be dictating the narrative, then this can be influenced by nefarious entities who would want to perhaps seemingly control and puppet whoever comes in power in Nepal or whatever is happening in Nepal. So Poonam, that's the concern, whether Sudan Gurung and has support, or will there be splinters even within Gen Z, and what happens then? Can Nepal afford another uprising? Can Nepal afford instability and uncertainty? Right now, connectivity is restored, banks are functioning, there is some semblance of normalcy, and this motley group of people who don't have any political ambition will try and do their best of what they can in Nepal. But they need the bureaucracy, they need the military, the police, and also the diplomatic establishment to work with them. Because none of these are elected, but they're all appointed by elected members who are no longer there. So it's a very unique situation in Nepal right now, and a very, very tricky one, a fragile one.
Absolutely. This seems like a classic case of give an inch, take a mile sort of a situation. And will that give rise to parallel authority where these Gen Zs believe that they can call the shots? And if that happens, then what the implications will be for both Nepal and for the neighborhood? That's something that New Delhi is keeping a close watch on. But thank you so much, Anand, for getting us those inputs and that perspective.